Hi, everyone. Ryan Fowler here with my good friends, Jordan Kirch, Tim Costello, back from his traveling extravaganza. And this is the Inner Grain Group. We are going to review a clip today by a psychologist, has a doctorate, his PsyD, talking about how he fixed his anxiety. He had very severe anxiety, and he did a great job of fixing it. And we're going to compare it to our methods and comment on conventional versus superneuroplasticity, the new wave, the cutting edge, and see how they stack up. But before we get into that, Jordan, welcome to the show. Tim, welcome to the show. Introduce yourself, Jordan, and then Tim.
Hello. I'm Jordan Kurtz, Jordan Kurtz Hypnosis. I'm rocking a new suit coat today. It's way more comfortable than the last couple I had.
Looks good.
And I
it looks the same, but it's more comfortable.
It looks like he can breathe.
Yeah, you can breathe now.
Yes. Absolutely. So I'm a hypnotist. I will help you find and locate your inner beliefs that are limiting you, and I will help you remove them and like these two, and to unlock your full potential so you can chase whatever matters most to you.
And I am Tim Costello, still at Tim Costello Hypnosis, still. Week after week, it's the same. That doesn't change. What does change is you. You get to fix you. You get to heal you. We just simply hold your hand. We're all hypnotists. We're all hypnotherapists, whatever label you want to throw on us, but we hold your hand through the process and allow you to recover your true, authentic self.
All right. Nice intro. So we are going to show today this psychologist explaining how he fixes very severe anxiety. I used to have very severe anxiety. Tim has seen it. And we actually have 3 case studies. 3 of our clients giving their testimonial. So I think we probably just dive into it. It's just a direct head-to-head comparison of conventional wisdom that the mainstream psychologists use. And we're not licensed psychologists or psychotherapists or anything like that. We go in, we reprogram your subconscious to get you to unconditionally believe in your ability and value, let go of anything that doesn't serve you. So let's see how the two stack up. And do you guys have any comments before? Oh, we do already. People are chiming in. Hey, Mike, we're going to play your Mike Harton here. We're going to play your video interview, just a quick excerpt of it. And P-Dubs, welcome to the show. And it was a little funny. It was pretty charismatic too. It's like I should make Tim my spokesman. And then Lab with Dennis. Good afternoon, my man.
Hello, Dennis.
And
hello,
then well, that's you
too.
Yeah. Oh, look, there's you. All right, cool. So do you guys have anything to say?
Tim came up with Tim found the video. I'm wondering
this was Tim's video.
Yeah, if you wanted to say anything about it.
Thank you, Jordan. Everybody has anxiety. It's just replete with just living. Mm-hmm. There is normal anxiety, which is like a new event, a new episode, learning something new, going somewhere different, all that kind of stuff that sort of hesitates you a little bit. You pay a little more attention until you sort of get used to your surroundings. And then there is crippling anxiety. Crippling anxiety is generated from your subconscious to attempt to keep you safe. You know, just like the light anxiety is keeping you safe and aware, the other anxiety is attempting to keep you safe, but it's actually crippling you because it's so overwhelming. And it is generated from within. And that's what I really liked about this guy's video was he is your typical CBT psychologist. He's got great ideas. It took him a long time to conquer, and I thought it was a great juxtaposition to what we do day in and day out.
Yeah, he's going to share his experience, and from what I can tell, with his methods, he's talking about a combination of exposure therapy and cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. So we'll see what he does, and we will break it down, and we'll explain more on how the subconscious triggers anxiety. Anxiety is the flight part of our fight or flight response. It's not a bug, it's a feature. But just like you said, really like how you explained it, Tim, is it's designed to keep us safe. but in modern society, many people have it in a dysfunctional way where it's getting triggered in a way that cripples us. It keeps us from going after what we want. So I guess we have 4 case studies today, this guy, and then 3 of our own. And so let's go ahead and dive in. Okay. Yeah, here we go. And so this is Dr. Scott Eilers, clinical psychologist.
For me, I realized that a lot of my anxiety was actually caused by things that I was doing.
That's wrong, but we'll keep going. That's the trigger. It's not the cause. We'll keep going.
Directly, and certainly not intentionally, but I was unknowingly sustaining or even exacerbating my own anxiety with habits that I was in, really, and routines that I was in. And once I was able to
that's wrong too. It's your subconscious triggering your flight response, but we'll keep going.
Identify.
We'll show why later.
And dismantle those routines, there essentially was nothing supporting my anxiety. I kind of pulled the rug out from underneath of it, and it had nothing left to support it, and it collapsed essentially. So I'm going to tell you the 6 most important things that I stopped doing to better manage my anxiety. And the first one is
key right here.
Yeah.
So he talks about how he stopped doing things to fix his anxiety, but he just admitted what he's doing is managing his anxiety.
Yeah.
He's not eliminating it. He's just managing it.
Yeah. And he actually fundamentally misunderstands anxiety. We're going to explain it to you, but his techniques did work. Took a long time, but it got him there. They did work. They did help him. And that's because repetition, doing certain things over and over and over and over and over again can slowly rewire your subconscious mind. If you click on the video section of my YouTube channel, watch the 4-part series on superneuroplasticity. Dr. Andrew Huberman mentions in the first video, part 1, how repetition is a type of neuroplasticity. So what actually happened is he slowly rewired his subconscious over time. And honestly, he should know better. As a clinical psychologist, the father of modern psychoanalysis, Carl Jung, said, until you make your unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you'll call it fate. It's established science that 90 to 95% of our behavior is directed by our subconscious. You guys who are watching, just Google that right now. What percent of our behavior is directed by our subconscious? Google it, see what comes up. So already he's getting some of the fundamentals wrong, but the techniques he used with a lot of repetition did work over time, because a lot of repetition can slowly rewire your brain. But we'll keep going.
Meaning I stopped avoiding. Now, this one is tricky, I know, because this is what anxiety tells us to do. Anxiety tells us to avoid. Anxiety tells us that'll be terrible. You don't have the skills to handle it. Everyone's going to hate you. You're going to fail, et cetera, et cetera.
Ah, there you go. Toxic shame, right? That's the real reason.
Yep.
That's the real reason. You're going to fail. People are going to hate you. You're not good enough. You're embarrassed now. That's the actual root cause of anxiety, is this subconscious belief. So he confuses the two right there. He's going to make some other statements that are false, and we are going to prove they're false when you see our client interviews and how quickly our clients fixed their crippling anxiety, including your wife. Your wife is one of those, Tim.
Yep.
Anyways, we'll keep going.
Et cetera, right? And you don't want to just throw yourself head first into anxiety-provoking situations necessarily, but I think of it as a lot like stretching. Like if you're doing calisthenics, if you start to stretch and the second you feel any physical discomfort, you don't progress in that movement, you will not make any progress on your flexibility, because the progress that you make on your physical flexibility comes from entering that discomfort zone, right? The zone where you start to feel my body's in a position that it doesn't find itself in very often. And that's loosening and stretching my muscles and my tendons and things like that.
Hang there.
Your brain.
This is exposure therapy he's getting into, but go ahead.
So what he's describing about that uncomfort zone, I believe, is the anxiety welling up. So
That's right.
So he's exposing himself to something that would trigger him. So there's going to be a pattern in the outside world that is now matching a pattern from his childhood subconscious development that will cause him to feel a certain way. And he calls it anxiety, and we'll go with that. Or he talks about uncomfort.
Yep. So he's going to get into, hey, you got to face your discomfort. You got to face the anxiety and do it anyways, over and over and over and over and over again, which is like the more you stretch a muscle, the more flexible it becomes. The more you work out a muscle, the more flexible it becomes slowly over time. So that's exposure therapy. That's what he's talking about. Just keep leaning into the anxiety, do it anyways, and eventually get better. That's what he's talking about. We'll keep going.
Brain works the same way. It gets tight and tense because you don't go into situations that challenge it. And the only way you can kind of loosen your brain up, because that's kind of what anxiety feels like, right? People say, loosen up. Okay, well, how do you do that? You stretch your comfort zone.
And this is part of the truth. Our brain motivates us towards the familiar, away from the unfamiliar. If something's unfamiliar, you're going to have 2, 3, 4 out of 10 anxiety, low-level anxiety. It's not the only thing that causes anxiety. He already mentioned it. Fear of failure. Everyone's going to hate me. Toxic shame. That's actually much stronger. And that does not have to do with repetition or not being familiar with something. In fact, Mike H., we're going to play his testimonial. He did one session listening to an audio, and he did something he had never done before. And his anxiety went from 9 out of 10 to 2 out of 10 after rewiring, even though he hadn't done it any before at all. So we are here to challenge this conventional wisdom. This guy has a doctorate, and his methods are, they can work, but they're difficult. They take a long time. It's difficult to face crippling fear over and over and over and over again. And in fact, many people won't. And if you're not willing to face it, you don't get better. His methods don't work. There is a better way. We'll keep going though.
Now let's hang on there for a second.
Yep.
Let me comment there. So when he's talking about this exposure to your uncomfort zone, one of the things that we do through Ryan's Dive to the 5 program is we identify what is generating that anxiety. And then we go in and we ramp that particular anxiety up to hopefully face it for the very last time.
Well, we ramp the shame up.
That's right. We ramp the shame up, and then we clear that toxic shame out of your mind and then rewire that with a bunch of positive, good thoughts so that you can learn to love yourself at the core, and you no longer need anything from the outside in that particular program. Really key. That's the difference. We're either going to expose it off and on and on and on and on and on and slowly wear it down and control it, or we're going to ramp it up, make it pretty intense, which is one of the episodes or one of the elements of superneuroplasticity, and then we're going to clear it out. And once it's cleared out,
one session,
it's gone forever.
Yep.
Unless you retalk it back in, but it's essentially gone forever, reprogrammed, and then rewired that subconscious.
Okay, so let's go.
I have something else to add.
Go ahead, Jordan.
So one thing, so the strategy he's talking about is you can actually use it with our methods. If you, a lot of people find that trying to uncover these negative subconscious programs, it's a very uncomfortable process to go through. People have resistance. They don't want to look at themselves. And so you can use his techniques at least to get used to the process of finding what those negative subconscious processes are. But of course, then you have to use hypnosis to remove them. But, at least at the beginning, you do have to use a little bit of your conscious mind to analyze your subconscious mind.
Oh, yep. I agree.
And I'm going to add one more thing to that.
Okay.
And that triggered me, Jordan, into a good thought.
Okay.
Good.
If Dr. Eilers' patient came to us first to strip away a couple of big subconscious maladaptive programs, his therapy would be 1,000 times % better and more effective, because now he can engage in the
probably wouldn't even need his therapy.
What's that?
you probably wouldn't even need what he does.
Well, there's a number of people, and I think you'll admit, Ryan, or even acknowledge that if you have been treating yourself horribly for 30 years, there's a habit ingrained in there, self-deprecation, talking bad about yourself,
that's true.
knocking
That's
yourself down, that if we strip that program out and rewire it, you could go to Dr. Eilers and do a lot of talk therapy and a lot of CBT, whatever you want to do, but you won't need him forever. You'll need him for a few sessions until you've regained the habits of, quite frankly, being nice to yourself.
That's true, and that's a good point, and I actually do agree with that. We get rid of the underlying root cause of the anxiety, which is, and he already mentioned it, oh, people are going to hate me, and I'm going to fail, and all. That's actually the root cause. The feelings you get when that happens is causing the anxiety. Your brain doesn't want to feel that pain. That's why it gives you anxiety. So it's not the behavior. It's funny, he mentions the root cause, but and kind of says it is, but he doesn't. Then he says the behaviors are the root cause, so which is wrong. Behaviors are the trigger of the root cause. Once you clear the root cause of maladaptive, we're not talking about good anxiety. It keeps you safe. We're talking about anxiety that cripples you. Once you get rid of the root cause, it is still many people still need some sort of self-talk or cognitive behavior modification to kind of really lock it down and get it to where it should be.
Right.
You don't need that for the results. For you'll hear from the client interviews, people from 9 out of 10 down to 2 out of 10, from 9 out of 10 down to 3 out of 10, etc. Some stuff to get to 0 out of 10. There might be some CBT done, but the removing the root cause is huge. But these other techniques can be added on top to make it even more effective. I do agree with that, Tim.
Yeah.
Okay, so and we do use some of those techniques to an extent. We talk about, self-talk, life gamification, etc. in the techniques that we use to supplement the hypnosis, where superneuroplasticity, going in and removing that subconscious belief that is painful and triggering all of this. Okay, so we'll keep going.
In other words, you have to, at least occasionally, put yourself in situations where it is possible for the script that your anxiety is telling you, that running voice of, it's all going to fall apart.
See, now he's identifying the root cause.
Yep.
It has to.
I'm not safe. I'm not safe. I'm not secure. It's all going to fall apart type of thing. Sort of that dread.
Yeah. He says the root cause of behaviors, but now he's actually saying the root cause. This is it.
Yep.
And he's wrong. You don't have to constantly expose yourself.
Correct.
Yes. If you're not familiar with something, you're going to have low level anxiety, but the really high anxiety has nothing to do with that. It's your brain. It's a painful subconscious program, and your brain is like, there's pain here. I'm going to feel terrible. All this, everything's going to fall apart. That can be independent of exposing yourself to this. You can rewire that, get that out. And that's going to get rid of 80% of the anxiety, just or more, right off the bat. You'll see an example. We're going to show you.
You have to be in situations where it could be wrong. If you listen to your anxiety, and every time your anxiety tells you something bad's going to happen, you don't go and do that thing, then it is literally impossible for your anxiety to be wrong.
Bullshit. We're going to show you.
Because you are not in situation.
Anything to say, Jordan? He's saying you got to do it to get over your anxiety. That's not technically true.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Maybe a small amount of the 3 out of 10 part of anxiety, but anything higher than that, no.
I think, and again, we're chopping him up a little bit. And what he's talking about here is exposing yourself to that particular thing that causes the discomfort.
Yeah.
And the more and more you expose yourself to that, the more and more you'll get used to it.
But that did not work for your wife, right?
Yeah. It doesn't fix it. It doesn't get rid of it. It just makes you used to it and you recognize it, but it's not telling you what to do except to run away.
Yeah. Yeah. When we get to your, the example of how your wife, we fixed your wife Carrie's anxiety. Merely constantly being exposed to something by itself, it can work, but it doesn't always work.
Correct.
And it's actually not a necessary component to get rid of most of your anxiety. Here we go.
Situations where it is challenged, and it will always end up being right. At least that will be the message that you hear in your mind when you think back on the things you didn't do. It's good that I didn't do them, because you never had an opportunity to be wrong about the script.
Boom, there it is. Fear of failure again.
The only way you're
I agree.
ever going to break out of that comfort zone and expand your mental flexibility.
And they're a comfort zone. We are motivated towards the familiar, away from the unfamiliar. Unfamiliar, out of your comfort zone, but that's just 3. It's 2, 3, 4 out of it's low level anxiety. It's not the extreme anxiety. He doesn't understand there's 2 components here, and the more powerful component has it does not it requires rewiring a belief system, not exposure.
In terms of what you'll do and where you'll go and what you're comfortable with, is by stretching out of your comfort zone and into that next level. If you avoid the things that make you anxious, you will never become less anxious about those things. It's impossible. You can't.
Not impossible, although he's a little bit right.
Can't do it just by thinking about it. You have to actually go do those things.
Bullshit. We're going to show you. Just wait until we get to our client interviews. We're going to prove it.
The second thing I stopped doing to lower my anxiety level is you guys are going to be mad. Some of you are going to be mad, but remember, I'm not the boss of your life. These are just ideas. Take what you will from them, okay? The second thing I stopped doing is I stopped giving myself unlimited access to stimulants. And I don't necessarily mean like street drugs. I mean like coffee and energy drinks and pre-workouts and Mountain Dew, because caffeine is the most commonly used stimulant for people, right? Stimulants and anxiety are not necessarily the best of friends, okay?
What do you guys think of this?
Yeah, he's talking about rumination now. It's like your brain goes into overdrive while you're always awake.
Yeah, I honestly, and I know it's not the best habit, I have like 2 energy drinks a day. Very, very little anxiety throughout my day. What caffeine does
is pretty good.
What's that?
This coffee's pretty good.
Yeah,
I'm drinking here.
What caffeine does is we have certain receptors in our brain that receive a chemical, a neurotransmitter that tells us we're tired, it's time to go to bed. And what caffeine does is it blocks those receptors.
Yeah, that hormone or that whatever the heck it's called called adenosine.
Yeah, there you go.
And it builds up from the minute you wake up until you finally go to sleep, where your brain now eliminates it from your body.
Yeah. Now, I remember there was a long time ago, I had to get up early for this thing. And so I took like a lot of caffeine. And back then I wasn't used to energy drinks. And I did kind of feel this nervousness. But what happens is if you're drinking coffee every day, your body just adapts. It becomes the new normal. I'm not saying that caffeine maybe it will cause anxiety for some people. But for me, it's not an issue. So I think if you struggle with anxiety and you're having a lot of caffeine, let's say more than 1 cup of coffee a day, try stopping, see if that helps your anxiety. But I will absolutely say it is not the cause for and is not an issue for many people, but it might be for some. So go ahead and try.
Hey,
Yeah,
stimulants.
I've never had I don't think I've ever heard that before, to stop coffee to reduce anxiety. I think he might be the first. I'm trying to think. But I've never, I've just used it to stay awake, to do stuff. Like my anxiety will, in the past, has flowed because of, maybe something's going on in life, or, I haven't cleared a subconscious program that's getting triggered. But I've never associated high stimulants to, and if I'm using stimulants because I'm stressed, because I need to stay up and do something, it's not, I don't know if it's because of the stimulant, it's the stuff it's the external stuff that's causing me to use the stimulant in the first place. So
yeah,
that's interesting. I'd have to research more about that.
our body and mind are connected. So if you're watching this and you have a lot of anxiety, try it. Try stopping caffeine for a few days, see what happens. And if it helps you, great. But I'll just share my personal experience. It has no effect on me.
Me
So, okay, very good. All right, back.
Oh, do we want to comment on Mike's comment you brought up?
Yeah, Mike, let's see. Mike brought up here. A logical conclusion of the guy's philosophy would be to avoid anything that gives you anxiety. I heard lean into it and expose yourself to it. So maybe you heard something I didn't, Mike.
I think he was talking about like the logical the logical conclusion of this guy's philosophy would to avoid anything that gives you anxiety.
Maybe he's saying, yeah, I'm not sure.
Mike,
so one of the things he did say is that you'll
lean into
learn
the caffeine and you'll get used to it, and then you won't have anxiety with caffeine. Maybe that's what he means.
He said that you'll learn to not do the things that cause anxiety, therefore you won't be able to fail. He used a different word than fail, but essentially, he essentially said expose yourself to that so that you won't go in that direction, so that you'll essentially stay neurologically safe, right? Or psychologically safe, which means, like Mike's point, I see his thing is, if going out of the house gives you anxiety and you keep getting near the front door and you keep recognizing that, then now you're not going to go out of the house anymore.
True. Yeah.
So there's sort of it's a stretch, but I could see that.
Okay. All right. We'll listen to the good doctor just a little bit more, and then I'll play like 2 minutes of the Mike H interview. We actually got 3 today, so we'll start playing them intermittently.
Increase brain activity. They make
Yeah,
more
sure.
happen and they happen more quickly.
What's that?
Got to
Show
show
the
it.
video.
There you go.
All right.
It's all right.
In your brain, but they do it in a very non-discriminatory fashion, right? And so stimulant use essentially makes your brain think quicker and generate more thoughts. It doesn't necessarily make the thoughts that your brain is generating any better or healthier or less anxiety provoking than they otherwise would be.
Caffeine won't do that, but other stimulants will. So it does depend on the stimulant.
In other words, stimulants just supercharge what your brain is already doing. So if your brain, by default, on its own, produces a lot of really anxiety-provoking thoughts and you drink 3 espressos, you probably just doubled the amount of anxiety-provoking thoughts you're going to experience that day. You just gave your anxious mind all the fuel that it needs to supercharge its ability to create all the doomsday scenarios that it was going to create anyway.
So let me say something about that.
What's that?
So he says drinking caffeine increases your neural activity, essentially.
It doesn't. It just turns off the adenosine receptors. That's all it does.
It may increase that alertness when it numbs those adenosine receptors, right?
That's true.
That may make you actually more alert at that point.
It can release epinephrine. Yeah, it does.
That you would recognize patterns around you that you may not have processed before because you weren't as alert. It doesn't create anxiety. It doesn't cause anxiety, because anxiety is caused by patterns in the outside world matching the maladaptive programs, crippling anxiety, not regular anxiety, crippling anxiety, matching those patterns in your subconscious that try to keep you safe.
Yeah,
that's what causes anxiety, not the caffeine. And like he said, it doesn't cause it, but it does increase your alertness to an extent, because now you're more awake, right? Quote unquote. And then you may be more actively looking around for patterns that might cause your anxiety.
Okay. Yeah. Caffeine does cause some epinephrine release too. So it turns off your adenosine receptors and releases some epinephrine. That is true.
Anxiety should not ever drink any caffeine. Maybe you thought I was going to say no, didn't you? I'm not going to look again. I'm not the boss of your life. I'm not going to say you can never have another cup of coffee for as long as you live, but like maybe think about experimenting with it, because you just might find that at least significantly reducing it, if not removing it entirely, dramatically reduces the frequency and the intensity of your anxious thoughts. And if it does that, you have a little bit of a cost benefit analysis to engage in at that point, because is what it gives you, the focus and the energy and the motivation, is that worth the cost of the added anxiety? For some people, it might not be. I ended up deciding I fell somewhere in the middle, but on the low end, where I'll typically have 1 caffeinated beverage a day, very occasionally 2. I don't remember the last time I had more than 2. And it has had a profound effect on my anxiety, a profound improvement, I should say.
Yeah, I do think you should give it a shot. If it works for you, great. If cutting back your caffeine works for you, great. Definitely give it a shot. Our body and our mind are connected.
Very complex.
And caffeine does affect neurotransmitters in the brain. But for me, it's no issue at all. Okay, so we'll go to one more step he's talking about, and then we'll start playing what happens with our clients using the techniques and the, I guess, principles that we use.
Third thing that
we'll go for the third thing, then do that.
I stopped doing to better manage my anxiety is nothing. Now, this isn't some annoying therapist riddle where you have to figure out like, ooh, what's the nut? No, I mean it literally. I stopped doing nothing because I spent so much of my time when I was anxious doing nothing.
This is rumination.
Here's what I learned from that time.
When you're doing nothing, you ruminate. If you have internal issues unresolved.
My brain, and I assume everybody else's brain too. I always assume my brain works like most people's, which like might be a dangerous assumption because I'm kind of a strange person. But my brain essentially uses any unoccupied part of itself to generate anxiety.
What about meditation?
Yeah.
I'm serious. So what do you guys think? Because in meditation, the whole point is to clear your mind, do nothing. So where does that play in? Because meditation is actually a really good tool for helping with anxiety.
So the way I think he's dealing with this right now, when he's saying he's stopping doing nothing, means that he's not going to allow himself to be doing nothing, which causes that rumination, which now causes that anxiety because you're overthinking things. So he goes and builds something, or he goes for a run, or he goes to woodworking, or he does whatever he does, but he's now occupying himself so he doesn't ruminate. I mean, to a point that will work a little bit because you're not creating the patterns in your head or overthinking. But the reality is that nothing's getting fixed.
Yeah. So that, I think that is a management technique. So rumination, of course, is rumination is thinking about your problems over and over and over, regrets, and if you think about negative stuff over and over, especially stuff that causes anxiety, will that increase your anxiety? Yes.
Yeah.
But it's you ruminating about things that are in you that can be removed. And once you remove them, then it's not in you anymore. And you ruminate. You don't ruminate anymore. Rumination it does not exist if you no longer feel bad about the past. If you no longer have regrets, if you no longer have unresolved trauma, you just don't ruminate because it's not an issue. So he's literally saying, don't think about the things that are the painful beliefs in you that cause you pain. Keep yourself busy so you're not preoccupied with that. And that goes back to, I wrote an ebook on how our subconscious mind works and why it keeps you stuck. And we say our brain motivates us towards pleasure, stronger, avoid pain, but we use pleasure to cover pain. And we use things to distract ourselves from what's in us. So yes, don't think about it, but that doesn't resolve the issue. And in a way, that's the same thing that drug addicts do. I'm going to cover this up. I have a headache. I'm going to take a painkiller. Or, you have an injury. That'd be more accurate. And now you're taking, an opiate. Well, the injury's still there. You just numbed it out.
Yep.
Now I'm not recommending rumination. I'm recommending curing the underlying painful beliefs in your core that lead you to ruminate. He's saying stay busy so you don't ruminate. Yeah, that's a management technique. It can help, but you're not fixing the core issue, and that's a problem. Okay, so anything to add, Jordan?
I've thought on meditation. So the meditation, because I did meditation for like 180 days straight, a couple
How was
of
that?
years ago. It was interesting. I think the first thing you learn, so I was learning through Headspace, the app, and the first thing he really teaches you is the main technique is observation over engagement. The idea is not to try and not think about things. The idea is to try and watch yourself think about things. And in the process of just simply stepping back and watching yourself have thoughts, you naturally calm the mind down so that you have less thoughts. But trying to have less thoughts, that's not really the technique. And I think that's what people think it is. It's try and think about nothing. Try and just focus on your breath. And Headspace helped me see it's like, no, it's just you're almost for you by stepping back and simply watching your thoughts, you are naturally relaxing the mind. And so, and that's the purpose of meditation. Now it's different from hypnosis, but I'll go to the rumination.
It's kind of a cousin to hypnosis, but you're not rewiring your subconscious, but you get in a similar state that you do in hypnosis.
And I think both of them have their place, honestly. I think they both have very useful applications.
Meditation work?
I don't, but him just saying, I'm gonna go in on him a little bit. I don't think this video has been very helpful. Just saying don't think about it or distract yourself, that's okay. I'm gonna play a little. I'm gonna be a little mean.
Well, rumination does not help. That I agree with. Rumination does not help. But go ahead.
I agree. But like somebody who already has anxiety, like what are they gonna get out of this video? Are they just? That's what they've been doing. It's like they're doing other things to not think about the anxiety. Most people have heard of exposure therapy before. Like I don't feel like he's presenting, and I don't know him.
Well, he's presenting the normal techniques that have been around since started in 1950, 1970 in that area.
It's like, well, just try it and you'll get more used to it. It's like, but people who are really struggling with it, they'll
never try it. Some people won't go there.
Exactly.
That's the problem.
And I find it's almost like the opposite of meditation, saying just do something else so that you forget about the anxiety. It's like, well, that's, you're just avoiding the problem. You're not solving anything. You're just avoiding it. And so it's like, I guess maybe in the short term, if you've got to be productive and you have stuff to do, like, but
he's managing symptoms. It's not bad, but it's not.
He's stopping the bleeding.
Yeah.
He's not fixing the cut.
Yeah.
Right.
So Tracy Cook, welcome to
the show.
Tracy. And we got
Miguel.
Miguel, welcome to the show. Okay, so now we're going to show you guys some really good stuff. We showed you his techniques. If you're anxious, lean into and do more and more and more of the things that make you anxious. That's exposure therapy. He said, watch the stimulants, especially caffeine. Caffeine can release epinephrine, so there may be something there, but I'll let you know it has zero effect on me. And then the third thing, don't ruminate. And I agree, ruminating, thinking about all this past painful stuff, that can make your anxiety worse, but it's a technique to manage symptoms. You're not getting rid of the underlying cause. Now, what we do is we get rid of the underlying reason people have anxiety, which he mentioned it. He didn't say it's the reason the root cause, but then he says, oh, you're afraid of failure. If I mess this up, everyone will hate me. Everything's going to fall apart. So he understands the root stuff. He just doesn't think it is root. He doesn't think it is the root cause. The root cause is, as children, we don't know anything. We're observing the world around us anytime. And as children, we're trying to figure everything out. When things happen, we draw conclusions what things mean. I said something and everyone in class laughed at me and poked fun at me and then later looked down at me and I lost status. What does that mean? Oh man, I got to be really careful what I say. If I say the wrong thing, it's bad, it's painful, I'm embarrassed, I'm hurt. That stuff like that happens as a kid and we form these subconscious beliefs. Now, that same child as an adult, now they have social anxiety because they're like, oh man, I'm in a group and if I say the wrong thing, I'm going to get embarrassed. I'm going to lose status, just like when I was a kid. You have another kid where that doesn't happen or he's generally well liked in school. And so he'll form a belief system that, hey, I can be myself. People like me. I can be the real authentic me. Now as an adult, no social anxiety. And they form it. The root is the beliefs we form in childhood. So we go in and fix that. And let's look at the results. Now, he doesn't explicitly say this, but I think you can pretty much draw the conclusion when he's talking about expose yourself to the things that makes you anxious, actually do it. He's talking about doing it over and over and over and over again to slowly reduce your anxiety over time. He's talking about slow fixes. Yep. Anyone who's gone to a psychotherapist knows that's what they do. In fact, we have covered shows. What's that name of the Dancing with the Stars lady? He had been going to 2 therapists for 10 years.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one. I don't remember her name, though.
Cheryl Burke.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they have slow techniques that either manage without fixing the root cause or will slowly over time, for some people, cognitive behavioral therapy is called the gold standard of psychotherapy. It works half the time. That's what the scientific data says. Half the time, it does not work at all. Half the time, it works somewhere between a little and a lot for people. And I did 100 sessions over 15 years. Yeah. So.
And it helped a little.
What's up?
And it helped a little.
And it helped a little. Over 15 years, it fixed about 60% of my depression. Did not fix any of my anxiety at all. Did not fix my internalized rage. Did not fix my CPTSD. Did fix about 60% of my depression. All right. So now we're going to show you what our methods do. So Mike, who is on the show, who is man,
here we go, Mike.
Come on sometime, Mike. But he was kind enough. He tried our free program, which you can go to right there. Let's see how I can do this. School.com MindChrysalis/7138. There's a free program. He used a free program, and it's going to do what we recommend. Our methods, and let's see what the results are for that. Oh, hold on. Hold on. I'm pushing the wrong buttons. All right. So here's Mike. Boom. And he's going to tell you his story.
So for the longest time, I'm 25 years old. I've always struggled with girls, and especially just initiating with them, going up, talk with them, having a conversation. Mm-hmm. I've always felt like there was just a barrier between me and walking up to that girl.
And what was that feeling that kept you from doing that? Or was it something else?
I just felt like I was just never good enough for any girl, no matter how attractive she was.
How'd that make you feel? You see this attractive girl, maybe she even glances at you and smiles or something. What was that like?
Even when that's happened, it just made me feel terrible. Not only having the anxiety of not being able to approach, but the shame afterwards of like, wow, Mike, you just blew it again. You had an opportunity.
So you feel anxious and you don't approach, but then you feel like crap after because you didn't.
Yep, exactly.
And 0 to 10, that anxiety first, how strong was that?
That was a 9.
9 out of 10, very strong. So for every 100 attractive girls who actually look your way like they might be interested, how many would you approach?
It would have been a flat 0.
Flat. Okay, this is the problem with exposure therapy is a lot of people will not do it because they're too scared. This is not a judgment against Mike or anyone else, because some people have very severe trauma. Some people have a little trauma. Some people have so much trauma, it's just they can't do it. Fight, flight, or freeze. They're in freeze mode. So what are you going to do? Exposure therapy won't work in that
Well,
situation.
that's the whole point. It only works if you expose yourself
Over and
to
over
things.
and over. And that's very painful. It's very difficult, and it takes a long time. That's their solution.
Right.
It's like, do I really need a shrink to tell me to just keep doing it?
And Mike will probably tell us deeper, but there's probably some thoughts in his mind as to what would happen when he said something to one of those girls. Either they're going to judge him, they're going to reject him, they're going to make fun of him. You never know what's going to happen, but you suppose that's going to happen. And that is that crippling anxiety. No judgment at all on Mike. There's a lot of guys there, a lot of girls there, all that kind of stuff. Not his fault. He was wired that way in childhood, and it's impossible to get past it until you change it.
Yeah. Now, Mike right there in the comments, he says, now approaching multiple women is easy. Well, ask yourself, if you have anxiety, which would you rather do? Keep facing your fear over and over and over. It's difficult. It's really hard to do that, exerting all that effort, and it slowly gets better doing a lot overtime if you're lucky. Or would you rather do what happened to Mike? Well, let's go to the rest of Mike's experience.
So let's stop here for a second. So
okay,
let's just say Mike goes to the bar, and there's a lot of pretty women in the bar that he would love to speak to, but that anxiety creates that wall, and he can't get past it.
And they smell your fear, and you're less attractive too.
Right.
Just
no matter how much you do,
this guy's nervous. He's not the strong man I want.
So then what does he do? He goes home empty-handed, sadly, because he really had great aspirations to find that girl, right? Because all of us guys are after that one girl. Maybe some more than that, but at least one. Now, when he goes home, the pattern is no longer there because there's no pretty girls in his apartment or house. So now he starts chewing himself out for not doing what he should have done. And now his brain can't figure out, well, why didn't you do it, Mike? Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm such a chicken, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff, because the pattern's not there anymore. So the brain isn't recognizing that there's that anxiety. Once the anxiety is removed, we can't cognitively figure out why we can't get past that wall. And it's a self-defeating effort. So he would chew himself out, talking negatively to himself, because he knows he's better than that, sort of.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens when you use our method. At 0. How out of 1,000? So 9 out of 10 anxiety, never approached a girl. I think that's correct. 1,000, how many?
Oh, it's 0. Literally before.
Yeah, there you go, 0.
The hypnosis, I didn't approach any girl, like, ever.
Okay. Very common for a lot of guys, honestly. Like I told you, I was a virgin until I was 30, and it's true. And I struggle with that mightily. So that terrible feeling you felt, you blew it again. You felt that after 0 to 10. How strong was that?
It would have been a 9 too.
Okay. And then so we have this free audio, which is actually, did you do the worksheets and like write out how you? Okay. So I'm talking about the free program that is at school.com/MindChrysalis-7138. That's what I'm talking about. That's what he used, and that's what you guys can use too. The link's just right under my name. You felt and what the subconscious belief is using the training.
Yep. I sat down, I read everything, I watched the videos, I printed out the Dive for the 5 sheets, and I spent 2 hours just narrowing down exactly how I feel and why I felt it.
You took it seriously and you followed the instructions.
Exactly.
And sometimes most, people who take this seriously do that, but some people, the audio didn't work. Okay, can I see your Dive to 5 worksheet? Oh, I didn't do it. And when people do that, I'm just like,
didn't do it,
buddy. I don't. Yeah. So you got to use our program.
So Mike, I got a question for you, and you can answer in a second. We'll go on. How painful were those 2 hours? And you can answer in the chat, and then we'll just keep on going.
He actually talks about it in the video.
Yep.
So we'll just watch the video because that answers your question, Tim. Tell him to get lost. I'm like, take it seriously, which you did. So then what happened? And power to you and respect to you for that. It's not easy.
No, it was not pleasant at all. Like just diving deep into my negative feelings.
Okay. So then what happened? So you filled that out, and were you feeling the negative feelings? When you're filling out the worksheet?
Oh yeah, it was bringing back some bad memories. Yeah, and I wrote down the paragraph. I actually have it, and right after that, I started the hypnosis.
Okay. How many times did you listen to the audio to get the results?
Once.
One. That's superneuroplasticity. One sitting, you fix your subconscious. Now listen to the results. What happened? When it's done correctly, not everyone does it correctly. Some people need a one-on-one session with us. In fact, at some point, most people need that. But listen to what happened.
Literally, before I started, I was a little skeptical. Like, I've never done this hypnosis, but I'm just gonna go take a leap of faith. And I literally lie down, put in my headphones, and listen to it, and had my sheet with me. And I just felt like afterwards, it didn't even feel like an hour. I just felt
yeah, the session 46 minutes, the audio. What did it feel like when you're doing the audio?
I literally felt like, you know, that feeling of like when you start to fall asleep, but you're not actually asleep. I felt like I felt that trance.
That's a state of hypnosis. Yeah.
And when the voice was like playing, like it literally felt like you were in the room with me, like in my imagination. It felt like surreal.
Okay.
And you know, going through it, I feel like even during listening it, I felt like the changes in me, like each step along the way, like clearing out the negativity through the tornado, and then you making the Edison comparison was like
Thomas Edison failed 1,000 times, but failure didn't affect his value, and he kept going until he got the massive success. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah. So I just felt the positive core beliefs start filling my heart. And I'm like, wow, I'm unlocking a truth that I never knew I had. I saw the pure value that I have in within me that I just was blind to before.
Yeah, you do have the value. Toxic shame, feeling you're not good enough, we call that a false core belief. It's bullshit. You do have value. So then what happened?
So afterwards, after I got out of hypnosis, I literally felt like I was high on a drug, like some kind of like cocaine or something. I just feel so good about myself that I never felt before in my life. And I was like,
in your entire life? Seriously?
I never felt that feeling before.
Wow.
Like that pure joy of like, I see my true value, and I feel like I deserve so much that
this is what we literally rewired his deep subconscious core identity to, from I'm not good enough to I have massive value just for who I am. That's what he's describing.
I feel like I didn't before.
So by the way,
how long? Yeah.
I want to pick out a word there because we sort of brush right over it. He said joy.
Yeah, man.
Joy is an enthusiastic, enlightening, fantastic feeling deep down at the core of your existence.
Yeah.
Joy is what we are sent here as human beings to experience. Mike had his first taste in his whole life of that joy. And like he said, it's like a drug because it is like a shiny beam of light right out of your chest or mind into the world, knowing I am good enough.
And I remember when it happened to me, I had this tiny, intense, bright spot in my heart, and I was happy for no reason. It's like nothing good. This was 12 years ago. I was just walking up the steps towards my car lived on the finished basement level of a house, and just stopped. And I'm like, what is going on? Nothing good's happened today. And I have this intense spot of happiness in my heart for no reason. I'm like, oh, wow, this is working. Good grief. Changed my life forever. And
although Mike, I mean, it's always good to get a pat on your head by your boss. You know, you're doing good, all that kind of stuff. But Mike now needs zero external validation. He validates himself
because it's within him
of the day from the inside.
Yep. You fix, if your subconscious is like, I'm not good enough, that's painful. And so you're going to avoid anything that can trigger that pain. That's the anxiety, your brain saying, don't do that. There will be pain. Our brain wants us to avoid that. But then you fix that to I'm good enough just for who I am. You are now your own source of validation. And if, for example, we put a belief in you, I have value just for who I am. If this attractive girl or guy or whatever, if they don't see my value, it just means they're blind and can't see it. That's their blindness. That's their problem. We put that in your core. There's no more pain in you to get triggered that could get triggered. So your brain doesn't give you anxiety because there's no pain to avoid in your deep belief systems. Go ahead, Jordan. You had something?
I actually met Mike in Florida.
For
Nice.
an event a couple months ago. And I remember us discussing this very topic. And I remember him telling me in person, I said, well, have you, I know he said, well, I've been on the school stuff because he'd been in the show or he'd been, in the comments in the show a couple times. And I said, have you, used any of the free materials? And he said, well, I've been avoiding it. I said, well, why are you avoiding it? He's like, 'cause I don't want to look at that stuff. And I said,
you do have to go to your core at least once to fix this.
Yeah.
Right. And so it sounded like he had been putting off because he's been commenting in our inner game group show for a while. But still, so he knows all this stuff and he had still been avoiding that.
It's hard.
And so,
because your brain doesn't want to avoid the pain. So
right.
I've had people say, I've been procrastinating doing a session with you for a year, Ryan. I've needed it. They finally do a session and then we rock their world and they're forever after different.
Yep.
But so yes, you don't have to do the outside event that triggers the pain. That's what the good doctor was saying. You don't have to do that, but you do have to face what's in you at least once so you can connect to it. And then so we can fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's what he finally did. But you only got to do it once. Well, you may have, for some people, you may have to do it, a few times, but each time is like way better. And it's way quicker than it's like 20, 50 times quicker than normal methodology. And if you do a one-on-one session, it's usually one time.
That's right.
Usually one time and it's 80 to 100% better. You don't have to see a therapist every week for, 3 months or 6 months or a year. And you're still not totally fixed. You're just somewhat better. You don't have to do that. This is so much more powerful. So let's listen to the results of what happened to Mike's anxiety. So we've heard the process and him rewiring his brain. What are the results of the rewiring? How long did that last?
I would say I felt like really good for like the rest of the night, but even the day after, even though like I was back to like say my normal self, I still had those core beliefs within me. Like I still felt like I'm good enough.
These are permanent changes. This is permanent rewiring.
But do you think that's a temporary effect, or do you think you have some permanent new beliefs in you?
Oh, certainly like permanent. It's definitely like I still feel like just thinking about it, I still feel the change within me. Like those thoughts I used to have in my head, they're just vanished, and now I was replaced with like, no, I'm hot shit,
I love it.
This is what we call superneuroplasticity. There is a mountain of scientific research and data that backs you can do this, but mainstream scientists see psychologists still doing CBT, which is a 50-year-old methodology, are still doing that stuff when the research says when you put your brain in the proper state, you have proper alertness, focus, attention. You tell your brain to actively change, which is what we do with the audios. You take the time to connect to actually what's in you that needs to be fixed using the process that we give you for free. Everyone, did you ever pay a dime for this?
No, not at all.
Now we have paid products for, very specific stuff. Some people do need additional one-on-one guidance, but this probably like fairly typical result, honestly. I mean, I got a ton.
I'll show you 2 more videos after this. We'll go quicker on the other ones, but it is typical. I'll show you multiple so you see it's typical.
The only thing I'll add is, so the other thing about meeting Mike is that I could tell immediately from like the first 10 seconds of just seeing him in the testimonial video here, his
energy's different.
Completely different.
Yeah.
I mean,
we see that all the time, and people come back to me and they're like, everyone's telling me my face is different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
And Tim, you had dinner with me after I found this and fixed myself, and you hadn't seen me in years, and then you're like, Ryan's different. What did you do, Ryan? And then you got certified in hypnotism, because it's like, well, that's what I did, and you're like, holy crap, you noticed I was different. So okay, we'll keep going. We got a lot of, well, we got to kind of be focused, because I got to get through 2 more. The other testimonials are shorter, but yeah, here we go. Like this.
You see,
Call it superneuroplasticity, because how many times did you have to listen to that audio to get this change?
Just once, and I've already got like a huge change.
One audio, deep, core belief, permanent.
I'm trying to skip to the part where he can now approach women and the anxiety's way down. So
Change
You also
feeling
speed it
when you
up,
didn't
too, if
approach
you
the
want.
girl, and anxiety that kept you from approaching the girl. Now what happens after you rewired your brain for free with this process? Now what happens?
So literally the next day, I went out to my local city just for cold approach, and never before in my life I did this. I approached 2 girls, and my anxiety level was like 2 out of 10. It
From
was
9 down to 2.
Yeah.
By the way, 2 is
How'd that
good.
feel?
2 is
Oh,
expected.
After you approach them.
2 for, you can get your anxiety to 0 for many things, but I have a webinar that talks about this. In modern hunter-gatherer tribes, 25% of men are killed over women and resources. And so ancient times, hunter-gatherer tribes, that's the thing. It's generally people in other tribes killing each other. It's rarely within the tribe.
But here, the key here, Ryan, and I'll throw this in there, is
Well,
that
it's instinct to have a little bit of anxiety, because so many of our ancestors have been murdered over women. So
correct.
2
But
out
the
of
key
10 is
is-
normal, but 9 out of 10 is not. And we got it from 9 out of 10 down to 2 out of 10. He watched a training video, filled out a worksheet, listened to an audio, instant permanent change.
And
Go
I would
ahead.
imagine that the actual crippling anxiety probably went to a 0.
Yeah.
But now what he's experiencing is normal anxiety.
Yeah.
Hey, here's a new situation, a new lady, whatever. And that's just your typical hunter-gatherer thing that you're talking about.
Yeah.
So the crippling is gone. The normal is now it's in its place.
9 out of 10 down to 2 out of 10. Okay, so you guys, if you want to watch more of this one, go to the video section. And I think it's the very first video on the video section of my website, or YouTube, RyanFowlerSOS.com. So let's go to another one here.
Well,
These will go quicker, but we got 2 more to get to. This is our method versus this other guy, where you slowly, you either manage or slowly over a long period of time fix it by doing very difficult things over and over and over again, which some people can never do. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so here's another guy. He had procrastination. My good friend here, Nathan. His procrastination was fear of failure. His anxiety, you heard the psychologist say, oh, I'm going to fail. People are going to hate me. That's this guy's situation. And he's going to tell you what his struggle was and how he fixed it. I think it's about 2 minutes, 2 or 3.
I noticed a lot of fear of failure around it. I mean, it was new territory for me. I hadn't done anything before similar to this. So yeah, a lot of resistance with certain tasks, and there was procrastination was around 9 out of 10.
So we're showing you severe cases. We're not showing you moderate cases here. And how's that manifest? Is it stuff you just put off for a week or a month or to the last minute, or you power through it, but it's extremely difficult?
Yeah, I mean, like simple tasks that would easily take, half an hour. I was putting off for weeks. So yeah, it was agonizing.
Agonizing.
It's a video inside a live.
Yeah, man.
I love it.
Figure that out. This is like Inception, but
yes.
Yeah. How long ago did you find the self-hypnosis with my school? Can any of you guys identify with that feels like? It has free courses on self-hypnosis.
A month ago, I found your group through the discovery section on school. And yeah, it was super curious what it was about, and signed up. Went through the course modules. And as I said to you, I'd done a bit of hypnosis before, but it wasn't anything like I come across with your work. So I went through.
So not all hypnosis created the same. We are using a subset of hypnosis called superneuroplasticity. You can actually do it with psychedelics too, but you won't necessarily have superneuroplasticity with psychedelics or hypnosis. It's one of those two should be present along with 5 other requirements. There's some hard science behind this. Dr. Andy Huberman, I pick apart one of his very first podcasts where he says there's some neurotransmitters must be released in your brain. Here's how you do it. Here's the steps. He starts quoting from all these scientists who've done a ton of research on this. This is mainstream science that the mainstream practitioners do not use. It's ridiculous that the science is out there that's been established that you can do this, and then these psychologists are using stuff that was invented 50 years ago, even though better science is out there, and they ignore it. It's blows my mind that they're like that, but they are, and they really need to update their skill set. The universities need to look at the latest data instead of being stuck in the industrial age. They need to update to modern times because this is out there and has been scientifically proven and verified that you can do this already. We're doing it because they are dragging their ass. We do it.
Did a session specifically around the tasks that I was trying to fulfill.
And this is you using the free course all on your own.
Free course.
I want to drive the point home. Same course you guys can use. Sign up. It's all free. My free stuff is still nuclear powered, guys. But yeah, keep going.
I'll attest to that for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, came out of it and just hit play on what I need to do. It was pretty straightforward after that. There was no resistance. I mean, there was a little bit, but like majority had just kind of disappeared. So I was pretty
how quickly did that 9 out of 10 go way down? How long did that take?
Oh, it was instant as soon as I came out of the hypnosis.
Mike's case was not a fluke. We've done this hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. That's how it is like that. And are you still feeling those benefits?
Yeah, I am for the most part. I think there's some like stages to it. Like obviously. Yeah, keep going. And if you listen to a few times more, it just is going to reinforce the good stuff more. Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, mate, for the most part, it's pretty well. It's low digits now. So yeah. Okay. So procrastination, 50% gone, 60, 70, 80, 90. 70 to 80%. Okay. One sitting, permanently gone, 70, 80%. Okay. We'll go on to the next one. This is your wife, Tim. And actually, this is kind of a 1 minute compilation of 3. But then we'll go back and talk about your wife briefly, and then we'll wrap it up. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask in the chat. We will happy to help, just like Jordan Kurt said. Okay, so here's the final one. What would you rather do? A year or 6 months or 5 years of therapy, or just fix it in one sitting in the privacy of your home, in your bedroom, or wherever you're comfortable? Which would you rather do? Which do you think is more effective? Okay, here's the last one.
Just wasn't confident enough.
I mean, we go all out. We go to the core. We go deep. We don't do surface level crap, man. That's not what we're about.
He goes, nope, we are getting this sucker
I
out.
knew it was worth it. I knew you'd take me in the long run.
Yes, I do. One session with Ryan, I'm a totally different person.
At this deep imprint of I don't deserve it.
One session.
When I let that go, it changed everything, even the taste of food. What you've done in one session.
One session.
It took me more than 50 years to try and erase.
Took him 50 years, and we fix it in one session.
So you've done it in one session. You've liberated. Like I was throwing the accelerator, slamming the brakes at the same time. Bottom line is I was stuck. And then you came in and stuck me magnificently.
But if you told me I'd be where I'm at 3 years ago, I'd be like, get the hell out of here. There's no way. Okay,
This guy in 3 years went from could not hold down a job to well into the six figures and a homeowner, and his dating issues, all of his anxieties, hangups fixed. The internal shift, I actually did 3 sessions. This is my good friend Brant. I was just hanging out with him in Texas a month ago. Did 3 sessions for him, fixed a ton of stuff. And, anxiety, anger, feeling worthless, apathy, just fixed a ton of stuff. Couldn't hold down a job. He is now consistently, not just borderline six figures, well into the six figures now. That's what he's talking about.
crushing it in every field imaginable, and I can't thank you enough, Ryan. You've absolutely changed my life, my man.
Okay, so let's talk about Tim, your wife, Carrie. What was she struggling with, and what did this session do for her? Give us a little more detail.
Well, she had the typical I'm not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Probably some resentment, anger towards her parents who raised her that way.
Yeah.
She was stuck. Long story short, she's always wanted to be a business lady. She's definitely got the smarts for it and the intellect, but the anxiety stopped her from doing it. Case in point, she'd, join one of those multi-level marketing things like Sensi or whatever. Mm-hmm. And she would get all the stuff together, get all ready and organized and have that first party, etc. Never had a first party.
Wow.
Ever.
And how many times?
Well over 30, probably closer to 40 different times over 40 years.
So repetition didn't help her.
No, not at all.
Exposure therapy.
Exposing herself to the anxiety, didn't get past it. Okay. Now you said she never had a first party. Maybe if she had the first party, maybe not. Who knows? But that's the problem with exposure therapy. If you can't get over the hump, you're screwed. It won't work. That's right.
You got to expose yourself over and over and over and over again. It is agonizing until you get better. So what do we do? What did we do with session with her? What was the result from that?
Well, the result was
I fixed her anxiety.
The anxiety was gone.
Okay.
And now she's running a business, and there's sort of a meme I go by. My wife started a business. I got a job I didn't interview for, and I don't get paid, and I can't quit.
And how much did her income triple by?
Tripled.
Sorry. How much did her? Freudian slip. How much did her income increase by? Because you told me
once.
Once.
Tripled by one.
Yeah, tripled, and then some. And continuing to grow.
So she tried 30 times to start her own business, couldn't go through because of her anxiety. One session, what does she have now?
No anxiety.
Yeah.
Self-confidence, loves herself to the core.
And you're exhausted.
Pretty much.
Because you're working for her now. All right. So
Mike, you're right.
Yeah. So exactly.
See, I didn't have a problem 41 years ago finding a girl. I went through 39 different ladies, that's a bad example, but I dated 39 ladies prior to Carrie, and she was the one.
Yeah, and Carrie's a great woman. She really is. She's a sweet, kind lady. So, and now she's going after what she wants, getting what she wants. So for our audience who's still with us, just so you know, we do got the free basic program. It can be very powerful. It works for about 80% of people because it is do it yourself. 20% are going to struggle. Well, there's additional resources, different help. Reach out to us. We'll get you to where you need to be. A lot of people who use that program, they will make some fixes and they're going to say, oh, my life is amazing. I'm doing so much better. But I'm telling you this from experience. At some point they get stuck. They're like, man, I just talking to a guy the other day and he's like, he fixed his procrastination 70, 80% or somewhere around there using the free program. And he's like, here's some other stuff I'm struggling with, Ryan. I need help. I can't fix this other stuff. That's where we come in. Get started. See that, holy crap, this is changing my life. But we are complicated human beings, and invariably it'll be something you need a little extra help for. And you may not get this from the start. 20% of people, they can't figure out the do-it-yourself program because they're too detached from their feelings, or they're not used to going inward, or their situation complicated, whatever. just so you know, if you just want to, get that help from the start, that is available. But hey, try the free stuff, because it is the first two people I showed you, Nathan and then Mike, they did the free program. And then Carrie did a session with me. But if you're struggling with anxiety with dating for the guys, by the way, this will teach you how to fix anxiety in general. We do have a general overall program. And here's just kind of like the sales page, but it has a lot of testimonials, because this stuff really works. And I have probably 70 testimonials, done it several hundred times, changed people's lives very rapidly. It's a RyanFowlerSOS.com/approach. And
I'll
we
put it in the chat.
Paid program, but check this out. It's not just do it yourself, because the gold program, twice a month, group webinars, Q&A, and training for a year. You get all the ongoing support you need. And it's not just to fix approach anxiety. It's every aspect of anxiety with dating. It's every aspect, because there's several layers. It's like, geez, I can talk to a girl, but I can't flirt with her. I have to keep it friendly, because if I flirt, then I may really get it rejected. And it's like, oh, I can flirt now and I can approach and talk to him, but then on the date, I'm nervous. Okay, I get past that, and then it progresses further. Maybe you get anxiety about the relationship, or you progresses to sex and you have a lot of anxiety about that. This is designed to fix every stage with ongoing support. So if you want that ongoing support to fix multiple levels of anxiety in a dating relationship, sex, initial approach context, this is for you. Ryan Fowler, just RyanFowlerSOS.com/approach.
It's in the chat.
That is available. And Jordan was nice enough to put it in the chat. And this stuff really works. Do you want to torture yourself for years, or do you want to fix it now? And then instead of torturing yourself over the next few years, you get what you want because you're not being held back. Ask yourself, is that worth it to you? That paltry amount is not much at all. And let me tell you, a year from now, it's going to be substantially more expensive, but we're just starting out with these new programs. So we are absolutely offering this extremely powerful stuff at bargain basement level. Or for crying out loud, do the free stuff. Those first two testimonials, they did the free stuff. For crying out loud, try it out. You're worth it, man. You're worth it. Put in the effort and reap the rewards. The rewards are 1,000 times the effort you put in. So thank you, Jordan, for putting that in the chat. Do you guys have anything to add, Jordan, Tim?
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good. A good show.
All right. So you see the normal techniques. You see our techniques. Judge for yourself. It's at least an alternative way of doing it, which I believe is massively more effective. Try it out for free. Find out for yourself. You can try this out. You can rewire your brain. You can start going after what you want. It's not us fixing you. It's us showing you how to fix yourself, because the power ultimately is with you to fix yourself. We invite you to try that and find out what we found out, that you truly do have more power than you know. That's our show. Thank you.